Hello and welcome to episode 26 of the Game Dev Tutorials. I almost said 25, which would have been last episode. But anyway, today we're going to refactor Flamewave, the skill, into a projectile that we just can't see, but it'll be there doing its logic, because I don't like to run logic and effects. I like to keep those very separate. Basically what happened is I decided I didn't really like how... where I stopped in the last one. I know the video got really long. I didn't want to make it any longer, but I'm also not really happy with where we stopped. So I'm going to refactor it a bit and work on it. So anyway, to do that, we are going to move some. Boy, that's bad. Move some of a Projectile 2D's update code into overwritable functions, because we need it to be a little bit more malleable than it currently is. We're going to create something called still invisible projectile, and the reason we're going to do that is because we want something that we can place on the screen in a skill that will continue to run logic, as I said a minute ago. It's important, and you'll see why. The reason I picked this skill is because it does a lot more than, maybe a regular skill would. It doesn't just affect the screen immediately, it has a lasting effect. I want it to tick kind of like a blizzard spell would, or some kind of like death and decay on the ground, or something that's hurting something over time. So it has an area of effect dot, rather than a dot that's placed in a buff or debuff, which we do need to put in a buff or debuff system. We'll get there. And the next step is going to be to create the specific projectile, which is Flamewave projectile. We're going to change out how the Flamewave skill works, or fires, however you want to call it. And then we are going to start passing the owner into the skills. It's not super important for this, but it will be important later to know who the owner is. Okay, so that's the goal. Yeah. So jumping right in, it's probably best if we just pass owner into skill real fast before I forget to do it. So we'll just take it in here and say public attackable object owner, and then attackable object owner equals owner. Alright, cool. Now, that should break for the other skill. Yep. There we go. And then we have attackable object, owner. Okay, that should deal with that. Woo-woo, that's done. When we jump into projectile, because that's the main refactoring we're doing, it's, what I gave you guys last time and where we stopped, you can do a lot with it. It's simple, but you can actually still probably make an entire game with it. But I want to be able to be more organized with you guys, and not have to do too many workarounds as much. Yeah, I mean, pretty simple. Oh, I also have a minor refactor. Boy, I can't speak. For effect as well. So I'm going to put that in. You know what? Let me just do that now. Let me do that one now before I forget, because I actually already had forgot that I did it. Effect 2D. It's super simple. It just is going to check. Make sure I call it the same thing real fast. I don't like when my variables get all retarded between the two versions. It throws me off. Okay, what did I call it? I called it no timer. Okay, that was simple. No timer. What did I do? No timer. Okay, and then we're gonna just set that to false, and then down here we are going to just say and not no timer. So what no timer is going to do is it's going to allow you to not have it finish based on the timer, and that's cool for our our circle effect. So if we come into targeting circle and we say no timer equals true, and then we come into flame wave and we say we no longer need to do this terrible kind of workaround right here. We can just take that out. So now let's quickly, oops. Oh. When you're creating flame wave, you just need to pass in the hero that you're working on. No big deal. Alright, so now when we run this puppy, it should work exactly the same. It's just much cleaner, right? So, boom. Okay. Cool. It works. It's a super simple thing. I probably should have done it last time. I just kind of knew that video was going to go really long, and I kind of was trying to streamline it as much as possible. That probably would only taken 10-15 seconds, but I kind of capped myself off mentally and said, I gotta be done. This is too long. So anyway, did that one. Awesome. That's working. And we need to jump over back to Projectile. So in Projectile, we are going to have a couple new functions. They're super simple functions. They're not complicated. But it just means that we can stop this stuff from happening without removing, our timer code and our hit stuff codes and stuff like that. So we can kind of pick and choose which things we use. So public virtual void change position, and then all we're going to do is take this, stick it in there, take this, put it right where it was. We didn't change anything except for we now can override this function and stop doing this, and that's going to be important in a minute. And then we have hit something's correct. Okay, so we're good there. That might be the only one. It is the only one. Woo-woo. Alright, so now inside Projectiles, what we're going to do is we're going to add a new item. Do we want a new item? No, we just want to grab Projectile or something like a... There we go. Just grab arrow. Copy. Paste. Rename. And this one is going to be that long name. Still, as in it doesn't move. Invisible. I-B-L-E, not A-B-L-A. Just putting it out there. Have to spell it right, and I spelled it wrong before, so. Okay, so still invisible projectile. Could be invisible still projectile, but whatever. That actually might be a little less confusing, but we're going to leave it. Where to go? Right here. Okay. In here, we're just doing this. We're doing this. Pass in something much smaller so that it loads less. So it needs something, otherwise it'll break. So just put something in. Now in here we are going to add floats for ticks and current tick. Why floats? Because we are going to be multiplying and dividing them, and when you multiply and divide with integers, if you're not careful and you don't cast them properly, all of a sudden you end up concatenating your answers. So for this reason, we're going to leave them at float so we don't have to continually typecast them. This is slightly more RAM. It is lower calculation, lower amount of calculations or instructions, whatever you want to call them. So it would be a form of caching in a way. Not really, but kind of. Okay. Cool. We did that. Inside here, we are going to change out our timer because we're going to add our timer into it. So let's do that. So we have our timer. We're just going to put that into here, just straight. Because the child constructor runs after the parent constructor, this will override it, so it's fine. We don't need a speed. We're going to say ticks equals 3 and current tick equals 0. Okay. Yay, that works. we will be updating this. Because it's invisible, what we'll do is we'll say, we're not drawing anything. That was simple, right? We just override the draw into nothingness. Okay, that works. Now here we're going to do public override change position. And again, blank. And then lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to say public override bool hit something. So here we want to return just straight false. So we've kind of hollowed out the standard features of our projectile. And that makes sense because it's not doing things that our normal projectile does. It's not moving. It's not showing. It doesn't run into something and hit something, right? It does different things. The reason we're using it as a projectile is because it, in many ways, is like a projectile. It is something that's on the screen. It is something that runs logic. It is something that your character puts onto the screen. It is something similar in those ways to projectiles, so it makes sense to run this code off of a projectile. The other thing is typically for me, the only things that I run out of a skill are projectiles and effects. That simple. And if you start creating more and more different types of things, you're just going to convolute everything. This, whether it seems like it right now or not, is actually very easy to read, and it is going to be very easy to deal with from a editability standpoint. Okay, so we've hollowed that out. That's awesome. We've got this. I think that's everything. It is cool. So now we're going to create a folder for our still invisible projectiles. And we are going to save this by building it. Copy that. Paste it here. And we're going to rename this Flame Wave Projectile. Alright, cool. I forgot to copy it again. Okay, let's grab it. Put it in here. Here. Don't need this. Those are all fine. Don't need that. Everything's the same. Okay, so why did we do that? Well, we are going to allow for the idea that we have different code that can be run. This specific one is going to run like our base, so it's pretty hollowed out. But if you needed to add something or change something that's different from the base, like let's say we make 10 more that are the base, but then this one has, some talent code into it or whatever, we want to be able to update it in its own class. So it has its own class. We're not just creating a still invisible projectile that is based on nothing. Just damage itself when we edit the damages and actually have to balance the game. That's going to be important. Okay, so we have here, we need to do update. This is where we have a little bit of extra code. So right now, this is basically updating the timer. So we want to do that first. In general, I would say 90+% of the time, you either update first or last. Very rarely do you update in the middle. So it is possible, the base update that is. I should have mentioned that. But it is possible that does happen in the middle, but the vast majority of the time it's beginning or end. Every so often you'll have to think otherwise. You'll have to think a little bit more deeply about it. Okay, so first things first. This is when it ticks. So first thing we're going to do is make sure that we remember to update our tick. I didn't do that when I was testing this, and ended up looking for that problem. I such a simple thing, which is probably why I didn't see it for, 10 minutes. It frustrated me. So that's in there. I don't want to forget it. Now, when do we want to tick? Well, we want to tick when you launch the thing. We want to tick when you end the thing. And we want to tick every time in the middle. Right? So, to do that, we want to do it right away. So, we want to make sure we tick at 0. We also want to tick ticks -1 more times after that. So, let's see what that looks like. So, it's timer is greater than, so that's the timer on the timer, is greater than timer.misc. So the whole timer times the current tick, so that starts out at 0, and then it's 1 or 2. That's the right friends. Yes, okay. And that's divided by ticks minus 1, like I mentioned a second ago. So the first time through, this is 0, so this is 0, so this is 0, so this launches. Okay? So the second time through, this is 1, and this is 2, so this is half of the total timer, so right in the middle. And then for 2, it is 2 over 2 is 1 times that, so that's at the very end of the timer. Okay? So this will tick 3 times. Yay, we got it. Good deal. And this actually doesn't go in here. It does go in there. It doesn't go in here. For int I equals 0, I less than units dot count I plus plus, and then here we're gonna have if globals dot get distance. And somebody asked me about the vector2 distance. Yeah, you can use that. That's fine. I wrote this code to be mostly transferable between Java and C# and C++. So the dots in C++ become arrows and stuff. There's little changes, but the idea is that the code could just be used. And the one in C# doesn't have it. Or Java. One of the two. No, C# has it. I'm sorry. MonoGame has it. It's either C++ or Java doesn't. So I had my own globals. That distance. That's why. That's all. And if, for instance, doing it this way, if I realize my functions weren't the best ones, I can always rewrite them, and then all of the code changes, and it works the way I want it to. For distance, that may not be applicable. I mean, it's a pretty standard function, but that is why I do it the way I do it. You can choose to use the built-in stuff all you want. I choose to avoid it like the plague if I can, because it's not transferable usually. Dims.x over 2. Okay, so as long as it's half the dimensions of the projectile will be the entire image, just like last time. So very simple code there, and then we say unit I dot get hit, and again we're not going to worry about the damage it deals. We're just going to leave it at 1 for now. That's a balancing issue, and we're not going to get into that right now. If we try to balance the game as we go, we're just going to fall flat on our face. You can pause at different increments throughout your development and try to balance it if you want. That's fine. But if you try to balance it on a day-to-day basis, you're just going to blow your brain up, and you're going to be stuck balancing and rebalancing and rebalancing and rebalancing and rebalancing the game instead of working on the game and making features work and getting the game to a much better place. Balancing can be done when you're at a point where you're happy with the game. And that doesn't mean it's done, but that means that you... I don't know. How do I say this? It means that you're at a stopping point. You're at a spot where you can tie a little bow on that portion of the development and say, cool, this is maybe the next beta step, or maybe it's the next alpha step. That's when you would balance if you wanted to. Or you can just wait until you're ready to really get heavy into the testing. Okay, so there's that. We do need to go in and change out how Flame Wave works now. So that's one thing we need to do. And to do that, we need to find it in skills, Flame Wave. There we go. So we no longer do the damage here, which I like that it's not here anymore. That felt, I won't say sloppy. It didn't feel as good. Okay, and if I was just doing a hit when I pushed the thing, I would still do it here. So I'm not contradicting that. I'm just saying I like that it's put into the projectile. I like that it's encapsulated so nicely. I like that it's so easy to go through and read. Oh, we did forget something. We need to put this in here. So when it launches, we create that. And there is a small change. Instead of having these two vector2s, we're going to have new vector2, and this one's just going to be position.x, position.y. And here we are just going to have dems x, dems y. So minor changes, but that launches our circle. And ooh, it doesn't take in the timer. We need that. We need the timer. So that's another small refactoring. I did this over like 3 different days. So I kept running into other things I had to go do with my life. Let's fix that too while we're there. We need this in. So the effect is up here. It is flame circle, and it needs to take in int msec, and then pass that through. Good. Now I come here, and that passes in msec. Okay. Minor deal, but we want to line these things up so they run for the exact same amount of time. That's important. Otherwise, it looks like there's bugs happening even if there isn't. And we don't want that. We don't want people thinking we have a bug. They're already going to accuse you of having bugs that don't actually exist. Okay, we did that. Let's go back into FlameWave, and we need to add that projectile. So game globals dot pass projectile new. I think it's FlameWave projectile. Flame wave projectile, and then we'll have a position. Oh well, let's go back and get that. I don't want to refigure out what that was. There we go. Okay. If you guys don't know what I just did, I just cut the first one and I went backwards, because if you go backwards without cutting, you won't have that code. And then so I control Z'd until I got to where I wanted, and then I repasted the code that I wanted because I didn't want to retype it because I'm lazy. So that's what I did there. Okay. This no owner. Target new vector2 zeros. It just doesn't matter. We don't use it for this. And then the MSEC is 1500 for this individual case, because now we're going to have a tick. It's a little different than it used to be. Got that print. Put that in there. Okay. We don't need this anymore. This is gone now. Now we're good. We have everything put in. Yes. Okay. Cool. That's in. I think everything's in. Let's go plop something out in front of an imp and see if it hits it afterwards. As long as it does, then we're working. So I need an imp. Spiders don't do me any good. There's an imp. Ooh, that ain't right. Dimensions were wrong. Well, yeah, they're way wrong. Well, I actually want to get the dimensions in, so and then this can just be dems. Minor change out, and then our little doohickey here. Cool. Passing this. Ooh, we didn't put that in. Lots of little mistakes. I apologize. So we put that in. Now here we wanted 150s. That's what it used to be. 150. 150. All right. Ooh, nope. Didn't like something. Invalid arguments. Okay, cool. Let's find out about our invalid arguments. We don't need this, apparently. Doesn't contain a constructor that has 4. Okay. Are we happy now? We're happy now. Okay. Alright. Gives me imp, please. Yay. Killed it. So the tick is hitting it in the middle like it's supposed to. Ooh, hit all 3 on that spider to kill it. That was cool. This should only take 1 shot. Yep, okay. So it is working. We have refactored our really 3 of our pipelines, right? We refactored our a minor amount on our effect. We worked a little bit on our skills. We worked a lot of it on our projectiles. So we put a little bit of code into a bunch of areas, and that should make things a lot more flexible for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please make sure you hit that like button. Please make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with your friends if you have other friends that are into game deving. Do that kind of thing. If this is helping you out a lot, consider Patreon. Speaking of Patreon, I'm very thankful to the couple people that have put some money towards Patreon. That really, really touches my heart, and it'll really help. Like I said, as soon as we hit $100 total worth of Patreon money, which I think we are at like $30 or $40 now total over the months that have come in, then I will send out some art to get made. That's the goal. Also, I have some requests from a patron for topics, and so I am going to work those in sooner than I would have. So one of the topics is to get the map stuff going. So that's a multi-part process, and I am either going to start that next or very soon after the next one. One of the two. Yeah. You know what, guys? I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this is helping. Let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to help. If you guys can't tell, I answer, I think, every question that's come my way. And I love seeing the comments. So thank you guys so much. Have a good one. I'll see you guys next time.